What is up, my friends? And welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. And on this week's show, Dany Garcia talks about the XFL. We have that. Plus, the USFL and NBC deal is official. We've talked about it for a while. It's been kind of out there if you've been listening to our show. And the Markcast, you know that this has been out there for a while. And now we have, and you've heard it first before a lot of the public did. Plus, we have some fan control football news. Welcome to the show. Remember, if you like football, then subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button now. Get it over with before we get the show going. You can smash the like button on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, all that. Well, we're not on Instagram, but you know what I mean. All those social media channels, and make sure you subscribe, because if you like football, then you'll like this channel, because we cover the USFL, the XFL, clearly, fan control football, and so much more. If you're interested in the CFL, you can check out CFL News Hub as well. And I'll talk about that later on in the show. But that's doing really well, and that as this channel is doing good too. If you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record an MP3 or video on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show, and also leave a voicemail. And some of you have 888-430-7692 extension 3. We appreciate that. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and apparently now you can leave a review on Spotify. That just came out. But we're on Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and now Amazon Music. Yes, Amazon Music actually reached out to us and said, hey, make sure you're promoting your show on Amazon Music as well. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. We appreciate all those, because that helps spread the word about our show. And we are live every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter now, and Twitch. That's right, my friends. And Twitch, too. Don't forget about Twitch. I haven't started. I've been playing Madden, and I'm going to put when I play Madden on that Twitch channel. So if you want to come watch me play Madden, I haven't been able to play it in a while. And of course, our XFL timeline. We are 424 days until XFL kickoff, February 18th, 2023. That's when the XFL season begins. June 18th, 2022, XFL player combines. And of course, January 9th, 2023, XFL training camp begins. Boom. Oh, and speaking of other social media show stuff, we are definitely returning. Here's the little teaser. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. starting. Well, we're going to first do this. This is CFL News Hub. That podcast is returning. I finally figured out how I can finagle my schedule. So it's going to be on Wednesdays at 9 p.m., but not the CFL season is just wrapped up. We are enjoying, there is no break because there's a lot of news going on. Trevor Harris got released, coaches changing, GMs moving around, all this kind of off-season stuff. But definitely in the new year, and I'll tell you guys, you'll be the first to know when the CFL podcast will return, and we will go straight through Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, so you can hang out with me, talk XFL, USFL, fan control football on Mondays, and then on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. we can talk CFL live on the YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all of that fun stuff. Today's show, question of the week: would you pay season tickets for both leagues? It was that question that came up at the end of last week's show. Now, what that question means, even for you guys, if you didn't send us in an answer, you can put something in the chat. What that means is, if you live in New Jersey, would you buy the New York Guardians and New Jersey General season tickets? Would you buy both? Yeah, I know if they're not in your area, you're not going to buy season tickets. But if they were in Chicago, if both teams were in Chicago, would you pay season tickets? If they were both in St. Louis, you had the St. Louis Battlehawks and the St. Louis Markhawks. Would you buy tickets for those? And I know there's people out there that just because it has my name in it, they would buy tickets for that. That's kind of where that question goes. We'll get to your thoughts on that later in the show. Some quick tidbits before we get into Dany Garcia's interview on the Founder podcast. You can listen to the full thing in its entirety. You can look it up anywhere we'll have a link in the show notes to the full interview. But I wanted to just take a little piece when she was talking about the XFL. Some XFL news. And after I talked about all that stuff, you heard at the beginning of the show, those were 3 different promos that were played on Fox for the USFL. They were only 10 seconds long. They're 10 seconds quick teasers about what's to come. This is just a slow build-up. You're not going to get a 2-hour commercial. You're not going to get a 2-minute commercial. Even when the XFL drop things, it's too early in the game to waste that juice on dropping major USFL commercials right now. They want to get their coaches, get some players, and all those things are coming. This is just a slow build, just like Dany Garcia and The Rock and Redbird Capital is a slow build to the XFL. This will be a slow build to the USFL because, in all honesty, so we are the 20%ers of spring football. We're in it year round. 80% of the people will not care until there are players announced, cities, which they've already announced, and when games. So like a draft, games, cities, that's when people are going to care. Who are the players and when the game starts. So there's no need to do a 2-minute commercial on the USFL at this point. That's coming soon, and that would be coming really when you start getting into the playoffs on Fox. So we just played the first 3 promos. Very cool to see USFL stuff on national television, starting to get that buzz out there and getting football fans interested in what's going on. Quick side notes on some XFL news. Former quarterbacks Jordan Ta'amu and Josh Johnson, if you didn't heard, because of all the what's going around. Josh Johnson was signed off the Jets practice squad onto the Ravens, and because of all the issues with the Washington football teams, Jordan Ta'amu has signed with the Washington football team. So they are currently on. Josh Johnson was on NFL roster, and now that the Jets quarterback situation is they've got some guys back. Josh Johnson is now with the Ravens, which is very cool. And I think that's a great signing by having him as basically their 3rd string quarterback if Hundley goes down. And who knows what's going on with Lamar. And then you have Jordan Ta'amu is just kind of a backup, because they have lots of backup quarterbacks going on in Washington. Those are some quick tidbit news things going on here. We'll get into NBC's broadcast deal with the USFL, plus your social media stuff and some fan control football news. But first, let's hear from XFL Chairwoman Dany Garcia talking about the XFL.
To talk about the XFL, tell us about that acquisition, the strategy behind it. What did that look like last year? So talk us through.
The XFL. First of all, I've been an athlete all my life, and the XFL acquisition is one of my most exciting acquisitions to date. So the XFL, the second version of the XFL that happened in 2020, I was saddened because I wasn't a part of it. And I have a great relationship with Vince McMahon. And when he actually launched it, I was like, darn, I really had wanted to be. And I was very, very pleased with the product they attempted to put on this field, because they had a 5-week run. And then unfortunately, COVID really came and shut them down. And as a live event startup, they didn't have the financial metrics to support it. But those 5 weeks and the ethos and what they were able to capture and the innovation, the technology they were able to put on the field was very, very exciting to me. So when I found out that the company had been going through bankruptcy, I pulled together the team. We started to do some analysis. I called Dwayne Johnson up, my partner, and I said, I have a crazy idea. And he says, he actually tells the story as well. And he's like, I love crazy. Tell me. I've called him numerous times with that. I have the crazy idea. And it's taken us on great journeys. And then I shared with him the XFL and the full scope of what we could do with that incredible property in our hands. Not only for Dwayne personally, not only is the XFL something he could see himself in, because he did attempt to go to the NFL, wasn't successful, went up to the CFL, wasn't successful. If the XFL had been there, he would have gone. That would have been his next step. We always say this career was his plan B, but he did really well with plan B. But for us, we were looking at an opportunity to be the stewards of football in a 360 sort of viewpoint, multidimensionally, looking at everything that surrounds the football and taking responsibility for that. So how are the athletes experiencing it? How are the fans? How are our partners? How are our sponsors? How are our production partners? And we have a very specific point of view on how the storytelling and the interaction and how the XFL should be experienced and not watched. So we have, in fact, just came back this Monday from a full intensive in New York City as far as our XFL and our XFL rollout. So we're very, very excited. I would say historically, if you look at everything I've done in my last 28 some years has led to this moment when it comes to the XFL. It demands all of my expertise in all of the different areas to be able to do what I want to do with this property. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, look, I find it really fascinating, this particular acquisition. And just like it's quite a complex play. I'd love to. Can we delve a little bit more on that?
Sure, absolutely. You have first of all, you have the complexity of the game of football in the United States, which you need to deliver at a level that's undeniable. So right there, those expectations and executions are its own sort of company in itself. And then what we're doing is we're wrapping around it we're taking control of the entire universe that lives within football. And we're wrapping around it various elements of entertainment and media and expression and live events, so that not only do you have the game and dynamic play, but you have football being a catalyst to other experiences. And in that, you start to garner great complexity. And that's all about execution. So I think one of the great things that I recognize, especially in partnership with Dwayne and in partnership with Redbird Capital, who are our other partners in ownership of the XFL, is that we clearly bring a skill set that doesn't exist in major league sports. And that is where I see incredible opportunity. And that's where we have been building out the business plan to really take advantage of that expertise. So you've got to have an ace team right for the game, for the players, for how they're experiencing life. And then you have to overlay that with an additional set of skills to take care of every other aspect that touches the fans and touches your partners and touches how the game is being experienced. How is it being experienced with gaming? How is it being experienced on your phone? So the challenge is great, but it's been an incredible experience. I love the relationships. I love the people we have on board, the quality. And I'm really looking forward to 2023.
Yeah, wow. Look, I have to ask one more question selfishly, just out of curiosity, before we move over to $7. To take on like an acquisition like that and an industry like that, what kind of obsession is required to really understand it? Because it's like a totally different world. You need to immerse yourself, right? To even, right. So I'm just be curious, kind of, do you have a process there? Is there anything you could talk us through as you move between these different verticals and industries? And
I love your question, by the way. That's an excellent question. So I love that you asked, do you have to have an obsession? For the scope and size and the enormity of what the XFL is, it's a very loud project, right? It's very public facing, and we're not even launched, but there's football in itself. You absolutely have to have an obsession. You have to have the fundamental tenets of entrepreneurism, of drive, create something new. There's not a model, but I'm going to go ahead and create a model. So though you have to have comfort in that skill set so that you can then look at the property fearlessly and be comfortable saying, okay, these are the directions and these are the elements we're going to add to football, which will not affect the institutionalization of the game, because that's the other thing. This is not a property that you can just change dramatically how the game is played. You have to honor that, but you still need to bring the elements of today, right? And today and tomorrow. So the amount of brain burn, I like to say, is great. And it doesn't have to be all my brain, but where that 40% that only I can deliver or Dwayne can deliver, we have to be 100% focused on that. So the rest of the tenets of the game and a fantastic game and football operations and player personnel situations, you've got to have the best of the best in those positions so that there's nothing there but excellence. And then that allows you to focus in the areas, and you have to be able to bridge it over. I have fantastic partners, and I have an incredible group of individuals who believe in how I see the game and how Dwayne sees the game, and is open to a point of view of female leadership. So I'm the chairwoman of the XFL. So my philosophies and my leadership fall over the entire sport of football. Male dominated sport. So, that position is a major position, but it also allows me to bring incredible value to the game. So yes, when you say, do you have to be obsessed? You absolutely have to be obsessed, and that's okay.
So there you have it. Dany Garcia, chairwoman of the XFL, talking about the XFL. So if you thought that somehow this is like a small thing and like this isn't a big project, this is a massive project. And I would say in that interview, which was about 40 or 50 minutes long, they talked a lot about, it's talked about a fashion brand first, then a lot about the XFL, and then just some other kind of things. But that was a real big part of that interview, was the XFL and just how big and how a unique vision they're bringing to this XFL thing. So for those who think that somehow like this is going to be, this is somebody who is a home run hitter. If you listen to the full podcast, all the successful things that they had, from tequila to Zoa Energy, and which we've got a can back there, Drink Your Zoe, and all these different properties that they worked on, the movies, the television stuff, and people are like, oh, well, what experience do they have in football? Well, clearly, if you heard that interview, they didn't have an experience in entertainment, and they figured that out as well, too. I didn't have any experience in the CFL. I just jumped in and figured it out, and I think we have a pretty successful CFL News Hub site now. Very excited about the numbers over the last month. Things are really starting to crank. And we're getting a lot of good feedback from that site as well. So that's what you have to do. So I just think that the XFL is in great hands, and I'm so interested to find out what this vision is. We've heard Mike Mitchell talk about this division, where she talked about 360 kind of year-round content and entertainment. They talk about the live aspect of it. There's all these different elements that they're planning and rolled out. I think they have the battle plan in place, and now it's time to execute. Will we hear anything by the end of the year? Probably not. We did hear about, the USFL stuff, but the USFL is coming soon. The XFL is not. So I would assume cities and merch and logos and those things would take place in January, potentially maybe even the end of February, to get that interest in those football fans from the NFL to start gaining in some interest in the USFL. But you have to remember, we're a long ways away. And even in my experience with the XFL and the CFL, like I said at the beginning of the show, draft, interest is high. Who are the players, when the game starts. Even in the NFL, it's the same trajectory. So right now we're in this 20%er. where we're super nerds, so we're interested in every aspect of these leagues as they come to fruition. So that's why you're not seeing a lot of stuff, because it's just not there yet. It's not worth putting out yet, especially with Christmas around the bend. So there you heard it from Dany Garcia. Leave us a message in the comments. Let us know what you think about the chairwoman's vision of the XFL. We've heard about this for quite some time. NBC, they finally announced last week to broadcast USFL games on NBC, USA Network, and Peacock. That's right. So NBC officially announced their broadcasting agreement with the USFL. This is the second time NBC has gotten in the mix with spring football. NBC was not part of the XFL 2.0 era television package, but it was part of the XFL 1.0 era. Peacock will also be airing fan-controlled football games this season starting in April as well. So Fox will be carrying 22 USFL games, with NBC carrying 21. NBC will broadcast their games on NBC, USA Network, and Peacock. John Oran said sources said that NBC deal runs for 3 years and involves rights fees. And from what we're hearing, it's significant is the word being used to describe rights fees, not $5. Significant. NBC will carry 8 games on its broadcast channel, 9 games on USA Network, and 4 games on Peacock. Fox will carry 12 games on its broadcast channel and 10 on FS1. A formal announcement, of course, then came. We have that. So it looks like NBC is all in for spring football. They got a quote here for NBC. The deal provides programming at a time of year starting in April, the week after the Masters, when it has little competition. April is the perfect moment in the sports calendar to debut the USFL. I agree with that. I wish the XFL would not play in February just because it's cold. We love the spot in the calendar. NBC also likes the idea of spreading games across its 3 platforms, broadcast, cable, and streaming. It worked for us to have that platform flexibility. Of course, RN goes on to say that the league will play its games in Birmingham. That official announcement has not been made yet. Being told that's coming soon, probably in the new year. But everybody know, I mean, this is all lawyery stuff going on. That's coming soon with the USFL, that announcement in the new year. Remember, here's the interesting thing about this deal. The Alliance of American Football, AAF, as you all remember, launched in 2019 with games on CBS, Turner, and NFL One Network. But AAF paid for access on those channels. That was the first iteration of spring football in the United States. AAF jumped the gun, got in front of the XFL, and then paid to be on those channels, paid with money, of course, they didn't have. The XFL played its games on Fox, FS1, ESPN, and ABC. And that deal, Disney covered the cost of producing the games, while XFL took in the revenue from ticket sales. So we have pay to be on television to the XFL 2.0, not getting a TV deal, but the companies that are broadcasting it covering the broadcast of the games, which was, I've heard $100,000, $200,000 to broadcast those games, something that the networks were eating. Now you had Fox Sports and the Spring League, and now you have Fox Sports now owning the USFL and actually even going to NBC and getting feeds, no less. Now they're getting paid. So this is the third iteration of spring football starting in 2019 that we went from paid for access to don't have to pay for access, but it will be covered, to now a competitor, Fox Sports, Fox and NBC, getting involved with Fox's property to broadcast and give them money to broadcast those games on NBC. That is truly a unique situation. So, but we've heard Fox and NBC's name being bantered out multiple times, and now we have an official agreement. So it's very exciting. So again, NBC Sports will present 21 USFL games in 2022 on NBC 8, USA Network 9, and Peacock 4, and Fox Sports will carry 22 games split between Fox 12 and then FS1 with 10. The combined regularly seen coverage on NBC and Fox will give the USFL more national over-the-air broadcast window, 20, than any regular scheduled sport in the first half of the year, which I think is fantastic. Again, they mentioned that the teams will be playing in the host city that will be announced shortly. That's coming down the pipe. We all know what that is. So there you have it. Massive news. Fox, NBC, and the USFL in the spring. A lot of people were like, oh, this shows you the power, and I am seeing the power firsthand of professional football. And I don't want to say anything, but DraftKings and fantasy football, and you get the drift. There's a lot of money in that, And these leagues these broadcast companies are jumping at the bit. And there was somebody who wrote an article I forget where it was like a week or so ago, and pointed out that Fox Sports owns some kind of betting app. And to be able to use this as a way to get people on their betting app is priceless based on the numbers when it comes to get somebody to go from like a DraftKings to a Fox sports betting app. That requires a lot of juice to get that person to leave that platform and not spend their money there and move their money over to something like Fox Sports. And they have apparently some kind of betting app, and that just making that transition over is huge. That's huge money when it comes to that. So to be able to have their own product and to be able to get that betting thing going on, now all of this stuff makes total sense of why the USFL and Fox would come to an agreement, because they can make revenue from their teams, they can make revenue from betting, and they can make revenue from ads. So it's a really super win for Fox. Next up, we got to see what the XFL's TV deal is going to look like, because if we keep progressing up the ladder, what the heck is the XFL's broadcast rights going to be with all the things that they have planned up their sleeve? Here's a first. USFL, XFL, and CFL scouts to attend Tropical Bowl Combine. That's right. It looks like to be a first. So you'll have both USFL and XFL scouts in attendance for this year's Tropical Bowl Combine. So the Tropical Bowl is at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. Was that? No, that wasn't. Camping World Stadium's name has come up somewhere else. Let me know in the chat, you super nerds out there. Something else was played there, now that I think of it. So it's January 15th. I would love to go there, hang out. So we assume XFL Senior Vice President of Player Personnel Doug Whaley will be there. We talked about him last week at another bowl thing. We're not sure who will represent the USFL side. At least when that happens, hopefully we can get a couple names of who is going to kind of be that player personnel person for the USFL. There was a press release about this back in July. So the bowl week announces Orlando's Camping World Stadium is the new home of the 2022 Spiral Bowl Week, which features the Tropical Bowl, NCAA Division I College All-Stars, All-American Classic, which is the high school seniors, and All-American Underclassmen, another high school football games. The football series showcases the finest athletes in the United States among high school and college players, culminating in a triple header of all-star gridiron games in a festival format. Spiral Bowl Week debuts at Orlando's Camping World Stadium, January 12th through the 15th. Tickets go on sale to the general public. They are on sale now. Sounds like a really cool event. If you really want to get in on who is going to, some of these players that the XFL and USFL will have their eyes on. This is a big thing to be able to have the XFL and USFL there. Now, clearly the XFL is not going to be able to offer anything, But the USFL, this will absolutely give them something to be offered. The only thing is that these guys might be hauled out for an NFL draft. Let me know in the chat, when is the NFL draft, by the way, in 2022? How will that coincide with what's going on with the USFL? Just thought of that. So the Spiral Bowl Week game also will feature halftime and national anthem performances by international touring DJ Kutta, hip-hop singer Macy J, award-winning pop singer Whitney Starr, hip-hop and dance DJs DJ Camp and DJ Legit. Additionally, Spiral Bowl Week also includes festivities offering players an Orlando experience, inclusive for a visit to Universal City Walk, very cool place, international drive activities, and attending a banquet alongside some NFL team representatives sponsored by the Kissimmee Sports Commission. So there you have both XFL, USFL, and CFL scouts, spring/summer/fall football, all in one spot looking to have players. Now, remember, last year was just basically CFL, if they could even get in the country. This shows you what is happening behind the scenes with spring football. It is looking to be pretty big coming here starting in 2022. Fan Control Football, FCF, Season 2.0 announces, and I've gotten this wrong because Dan's as the new global broadcast partner. I'm probably saying that wrong. Dan's will stream all Season 2.0 action to 200 plus countries and territories worldwide. So Fan Control Football, the only professional sports league that empowers fans to call the shots, announced that Dan's, the leading global sports streaming platform, and as its new global broadcast partner for the Season 2.0, it will bring American football fans worldwide FCF preseason events, all regular and postseason games, and original programming through the 2022 season. Oh, how cool is that? Both live and on demand to all 200 plus of its countries and territories around the world, with the exception of the United States, where games will be available on demand only. Okay, that makes sense for Peacock. It's one of the fastest growing streaming platforms. Of course, everybody's excited about it. So, of course, FCF is doubling its size from 4 to 8 teams for Season 2.0 with the return of its 4 Beasts, Zappers, Glacier Boys, and Wild Aces. Of course, notably 2 of the 4 new teams will exclusively be managed by collectors holding an all-access Ballers Collective NFT, enshrining the Fan Control Football as the first professional sports league to offering an NFT with IRL utilities, benefits, VIP experiences, giving collectors unparalleled access. I will be one of them. There's no doubt about that. The first of the 2 teams are co-owned and operated by Steve Aoki and crypto and NFT thought leader 888, while the second team will be led by Knights of Deegan and its partnership with Drew Austin, Jack Settleman, formerly of the Wildlife, Tiki Barber, Rondé Barber, Cynthia Freeland, a bunch of other people as well. I'd be curious of when those other 2 teams come out. But right now, I'm Steve Aoki team guy right now because I grew up in New York. I'm not a fan of Tiki Barber. So, and that was from growing up in New York. And I was, watched the Jets growing up. So I'm going to stay away from that team. But that's my team. One of those NFTs will be my team. Combine tryouts. So Danzig will begin streaming live Fan Control Football content last weekend, with an open player combine tryout on December 18th from Jerry Chalabla Stadium in Culver City, California. All access will continue into Fan Control Football's 9-week spring season, with 7 regular season weeks, 1 playoff week in early June, culminating in the People's Championship. So there you go there. So you can kind of check out all the action on, and I know I'm saying it wrong, but there you have it. Fan Control Football. Definitely download that app. I think you can get that on your Roku to check out all the Fan Control Football action leading up to their kickoff in April as well. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we are back getting into that social media stuff. Remember to smash the like button and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that, as that spreads the word about football, and spring football is here. USFL, CFL, USFL, XFL, fan control football. A lot of fun things going to start happening in the spring. Totally can't wait to check that stuff out. We'll hit the chat real quick. We'll hit another commercial break because I want to talk about what's going on with the Markcast, and then we'll get back into the social media stuff. But first, what's up, Javier? How's it going, Paladin? I'll be one or the other. In my case, just XFL. Talking about our question of the week. We'll get into your responses there. Chris says XFL will kill it. Kuda Man says, LOL, I have a question, not football related, but why do CFL Greg keep mentioning you? What's the beef? I don't know. I don't know if he has a crush on me. I don't even know what I did. I think that's something that you need to ask him. I'm not sure why he's getting obsessed with me. But however, I've had success in the past, and this is kind of par for the course. It's happened to me before multiple times when I had a successful pro wrestling thing going for a while, and just people start getting all creepy, man. I don't know. I don't get it. So maybe you should ask him. Chris says, I'll watch the Cal if there is a Chicago team. Oh, the XFL. He'll watch the XFL if there's I don't know. And that's another question in going into 2022. I would love to see the XFL do is before this year goes out. You don't have to worry about any kind of merch. Just throw a team out. Just throw out a little teaser, 10-second like the USFL does, and just say 10 teams XFL coming in 2023. And you could let that sit for weeks and not even have to make any sort of formal announcement, and sometime until the end of January. That would get fans, as a gift to the fans before the year is through. That would be huge. I think they're sticking with the playbook. You heard that Toronto Argonauts, and I've said that before, I didn't think that they would jump ship. Their schedule, the CFL launched their schedule. It had Argos games in there. I think the Genius Sports partnership is bigger than what some CFL fans realize. I've heard that Genius took a 10% stake in the CFL. That's according to Dave Naylor when he was on the Markcast. That is a significant portion. So they didn't pay. The CFL didn't pay Genius Sports. They gave them equity in the league. That is the critical part when it comes to that. So that's going on. I don't think the Argos should leave until that happens. Now, this whole 3 downs, 4 downs deal that they're talking about, I am smack dab in the middle. Sometimes I love that it's 3 downs, and sometimes I hate it that it's 3 downs. That's where I am there. And Matthew Gates says go with 3 downs. Sometimes I think it's great, and sometimes it's annoying. It just depends. Chris says North Arlington maybe, longer and wider field, maybe, not sure. The Rouge. Fantasy XFL football. I'm trying to get there. Paladin says, grab a Blood Bowl team, Chris. Chris says, steal CFL players. Daniel says, hey, Mark, I like that you stay on top of all these news stories. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That's my job. You guys do your thing. Hang out with your family. Stay safe out there. Let all your pals at XFL News Hub take care of the rest. We got a great staff. I cannot wait till these guys are chomping at the bit to really start getting into some of these leagues. Like, everybody is super excited. He said, I would buy tickets for Generals and Guardians football. God, I hope both these leagues succeed. I freaking hate the NFL. Yeah, I mean, the NFL product is great. It's firing on all cylinders. I think it's time for something a little different. They're not going to compete with the NFL, but there is room. And for people to say that college football is the feeder system to the NFL is completely wrong. What were you like at the age of 22 versus the age of 26 as far as your maturity level goes? There needs to be another space for those 22 to 26-year-olds to kind of develop their pro football games, and then they could go back in the NFL. And a lot of these guys are playing into their 30s. You have a good 4-year run in the NFL. You play in the USFL for 2 years, get your act together, then get put on a team, and then play some ball. And even just creating your own legacy. You cannot create your own legacy. You can create your own legacy sort of by playing in college football. There's no question. People will remember you. Then there is the big time national broadcast NFL games. You cement your legacy. Mark Perry played for the New York Jets, and that's what you're known for. Giving these guys an opportunity to these spring leagues to succeed, whether it's the CFL. I mean, just think of the USFL could feed guys into the CFL. They can look at guys, but I like him. He needs a little refinement. Let's see how he does after a season or two in the USFL, and then maybe we'll sign him to a contract in the CFL. Those things will happen. That's why spring football is important. Ron says, are Rock calling his friends' own XFL teams or XFL going to have cheerleaders? I doubt that. They're going to stay away from that. Cheerleaders. Chris says, Nanny Football League, NFL. Oh, my goodness. Paladin says they'll need a lot of incentives to move from DraftKings. Here's the incentive, and that's a great point. Here is the incentive. You cannot bet on USFL games unless you can only do it on the Fox Sports app. Nowhere else. If you can't do DraftKings, now that hurts your league because it's not spreading the word, but it's also helping. It could help you, but do you really care if you can bring people into your Fox Sports betting app? It's just something to think about there, my friends. All right, let's take this commercial break, and then we'll get to your social media stuff. Thanks for everybody in the chat room. Make sure smash that like button and subscribe to that channel if you like football, because we are all about spring football. Let's take this other commercial break, and then we'll get back to your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends.
This week on the Markcast, Reed, he's back. He's back from Canada. They've let him go. They said, go back to America, you stupid American. And he's back. He's got a Grey Cup hat. Reed, how was it?
Yeah, call me Bilbo Baggins. I'm to the Grey Cup, or there and back again. We're back. We are breaking down all the Grey Cup fallout. We have Tim Baines on the show.
So we got a lot of things we have to hope for. We have to hope they don't touch certain rules. Don't touch the 3 and 4 downs. The wish list is is pretty big. I've submitted it to the guy in the red suit, and hopefully he comes through. And there's a lot of things we want to happen. We want things to be normal, and we want our football league that is so wonderful. Obviously we want it to hang around because it's not a given.
We have Ed Tate from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We talk the Winnipeg Blue Bombers big, victory party they had on Wednesday. We talk Ed's insights and all that.
There was a moment during Sunday's game where I was writing the other outcome too, right? Because it was, a game that's going into overtime, and I kept thinking to myself, man, if this doesn't end in the right way, what a colossal disappointment on what has been a really fun season.
And then we have Tom Mayonek from the Sport Market on, and we're reacting to the State of the CFL address and the big Genius Sports deal that Randy Ambrosie talked about 87 times during the media conference ahead of the Grey Cup.
You have some of the top journalists in the country not understanding what Randy Ambrosie was trying to present. And it's just because he wasn't able to provide anything but the macro outline of the deal.
We're also going to be talking about a little bit of a USFL news slipping in the radar there. Haven't quite got a decision on whether this is happening in Birmingham or not. We're just going to assume that that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, breaking down the TV deals, talking the TV networks and the schedule, which we've known already, but now it's good that it's finally public knowledge. That's why you need to listen to the Markcast, so you already know all these things when they become public knowledge. So,
and of course, we got a little bit of XFL news and an update on our XFL players that are in the NFL. That's all happening this week on the Markcast.
All right, we are back. And just for the record, so Reed and Paul are doing some kind of giveaway type deal. So if you head over to Markcast and leave them a message this week, they're going to send you merch, or you're entered to win merch or something like that. So definitely head over to the Markcast on social media. Their guest this week, the great XFL insider himself, Mr. Mike Mitchell, will be on the show. So you could submit your questions. Don't submit them to me. Submit them to Mike, to the Markcast, and Mike Mitchell will answer your questions. He is in know about a lot of stuff. That's going to be a great show. Mike Mitchell is always a fantastic guest. I'm jealous I didn't think of it first. So if you head over to the Markcast social media stuff, and they have a link that you could submit your voicemail, and if you do that, you can win prizes or something like that. So check that out. All right, let's get to some social media stuff, shall we, my friends? First up on the Facebooks, of course. Matt Nagashima had this one as NFL explores international markets. Will XFL ambitions move abroad? David says at this point they'll take anything, talking about the XFL. Where's the comments here? Let's see here. Okay. I think that will we see international teams coming in the XFL 3.0 era? I feel like they're playing it safe by going with the playbook, but now that the NFL has kind of jumped in and wanting a piece of the action and really getting into these markets and really, where they want to go next. I mean, Mexico is a gold mine waiting to happen. But if you're the XFL, you can't go to 9 teams. You got to go 10. Does the XFL add 2 teams? That would be a bold move. I think they're going to play conservative, and it will be 8, in my opinion. About the NBC to broadcast USFL games on NBC, USA Network, Peacock. I already have Peacock. Do you have Peacock? You better get it. Between Fan Control Football, I've never really looked at Peacock, but between USFL and Fan Control Football, I will definitely be checking out Peacock. Joel says, why games will be on Peacock and halfway through the season they're going to wonder why the ratings are so low and look to drop the league. I don't know about that. Josh says, league champion plays the Lions in the final boss showdown to gain entry into the NFL. Wouldn't that be off the charts? That would be awesome. That would be awesome. But that would never happen. They should make Peacock a channel to take over NBC Sports. That's not streaming thing. Dave says, add a Cleveland team. Michael says, I thought it was Fox. It is Fox. Mickey J. Wynn. XFL will certainly then be on ESPN or ABC via Disney, and then it will be Fox and ABC versus Disney again. I think that might be a lot. That actually might not be a bad idea. I kind of agree with that. On their PR thing, Sundra says the only reason why NBC Sports is carrying USFL is because they don't have NHL to air the games on the weekends. This is true. Something I wanted to talk about, though, made me think of this. I think NFL lost a lot of steam. I'm sorry, the NHL lost a lot of steam by leaving ESPN. And I think all these broadcast deals are great. Getting on FS1 or getting on, NBC. These things are fabulous. These things are great, fabulous. The king of sports is still ESPN. As much as I don't like, some of you don't like the NFL. I enjoy the NFL. I'm not like super fan as I was like several years ago. I am not a fan of ESPN whatsoever. I cannot stand their shows. I mean, I was like Greeny and Golick. I would listen to that, and and some of these other guys, and they were just unlistenable. Like it just got way too corporate, and just I just couldn't take ESPN anymore. So I'm not a big ESPN fan. I'll tell you that. However, you have to say that they are the leader when it comes to sports. Nerds are not going to go to Peacock or FS1 to watch sports. They will go to ESPN. So if you really want the cable channel of all, that's ESPN. And if you can do ABC, I don't know if Fox is going to. It wouldn't surprise me. Could you do ABC, ESPN with a CBS kicker? Or you just do ABC, Disney Plus, ESPN, Netflix, Amazon. Who knows? It's some craziness. I have no idea where they're going to play. However, NHL, the interest in the NHL was on fire when it was on ESPN, and then they left. Didn't do them any good being on NBC Sports. They wallowed in nothingness, and now that they back on ESPN for good reason, because I think they regretted jumping to NBC Sports, who then just shut down their channel. That's it. It's over. On to our question of the week. Would you get season tickets for both the USFL and XFL? Let's see if people understood the question. Here it is. Gary, probably neither, since I don't live in a city where they'll be playing. More than likely, still think at least one of these seasons to cut. Okay, see, that's what I'm saying. When Arizona gets a team, I sure will. More of a Denver Gold fan, so I'm hoping they return to the Wranglers and Outlaws. Hector, no, because neither league has a. I know. That's not the point. If they did I not say that? Would you get season tickets for both the? I should have said if they were. I don't know. I probably could have phrased it better. Zach says yes, providing either league would cost too much money, but for sure I would be there to support one of them. If money was no object, certainly both. But as there is football in St. Louis, you better. But one of the two would have my money. No, because either team. I know I didn't explain it right. Brett says, I left you a voicemail. It's mainly a question for Mike. Brett, you need to leave that voicemail with Markcast. Not me. That's a Markcast thing. Mike Mitchell this week. Leave them a message. On to the Instagrams about the USFL dropping those 3 promos this past week. Now that Fred JMZ _1776. Now that is how you promote a new football league, unlike the AAF and the XFL in 2019. I did not like the XFL's commercial. I think it was the XFL on Fox commercial was really bad. But the ESPN one was good. I remember I was like, this is like, it didn't even explain what it was. These are just little teasers to get you started. Little teasers. That's it. This is going to grow and grow and grow as we get closer to the season. Russell, the Truth Seeker, talking about Jordan Ta'amu and Josh Johnson on NFL teams. He says that's awesome. Totally agree with that. Oh, let me give this guy a like as well. Oh, Renegades. Hey, did you see Donald Parham getting knocked out on third? That was pretty scary. We're hearing that he is okay and was released from the hospital. But still, the long-term effects always gets me scared. On the As NFL Explores International Markets by Matt Nakashima, Blake Beltran, 03 says, why not first focus on some markets without NFL teams in the USA? San Antonio would love a team. I don't think Houston or Dallas care if another XFL team, since they already have the NFL. We've talked to this subject at length on this channel of why the XFL went into markets that the AAF was not part of. That was first. So you weren't going to get any teams, and they focused on big NFL markets because those markets have lots of money. And, you have, even if you got 20% of the Giants and Jets fans to even just show a fraction of interest in your league, that is the equivalent probably, you'd have to do the math, of having a full interest in San Antonio or something like that. Something along those lines. Believe me, they've done the math. But the reason why the XFL is not in San Antonio or Orlando or any of these other places, because the AAF was there, and when they decided on their teams, that was at the time they assumed that the AAF would still be there. However, things changed clearly. On to the Twitter. About our question of the week, Richard O. For Real says, I would buy tickets to both leagues as long as I can get the DC Defenders, the Birmingham Stallions, but I will only buy XFL merch. I think I'm going to bite the bullet and get a USFL hat. I wear this XFL hat all the time. And I have a DC Defenders hat. I would like to get a USFL hat. That's for certain. And I would like to get Tampa Bay Bandits hat, but I haven't seen them on there yet. I'm sure it's coming. At LV Rebel Fanatic, he says, no, just one league. That's it. Very to the point. Ken Gill, Arena fan Ken. I plan on attending a weekend in Birmingham and catch all 4 games, hopefully the opening week. But if I had a choice, it definitely would be the XFL. All right. I plan on being in attendance to Birmingham as well. Maybe we'll be down there at the same time. He also says, hey, XFL Guardians fans, question. And we'll pose this in the chat room for both Facebook and YouTube. MetLife is obviously not a good fit. And if they can't get Red Bull Arena, what are your thoughts of putting the Guardians in Yankee Stadium or the Mets Stadium? Interesting there. I would say I did not like the configuration. I think it was a little tough for the Dallas team. So that's why I would assume that Dallas would be the team to move, because that stadium, but then they were going to put money into the stadium. Dallas Stadium, I think I heard, was a little awkward for football. I think it would be cool to have it at Yankee Stadium or Mets Stadium, but I still think it would be very awkward to play football in there. But you never know, when they were designing it, maybe they had something like that in mind. Let's see here. J. Bernard, 1996, talking about the USFL. It's official about their broadcast partners. They say they must have coaches in place since April isn't that too far off. Absolutely. That is coming soon. As what we're hearing behind the scenes is that coaching stuff is coming soon. Like, there's contracts out and decisions are being made when it comes to USFL coaches. So hang on tight when it comes to that place. When it comes to coaches, that's coming. There are contracts out, and there's lots of chatter behind the scenes when it comes to that stuff. About the NBC, USFL, and NBC Sports, we put that out there. That was Mike Mitchell put that out there. We kind of teased that out there. 2020_hindsight says, not great news for the XFL. The potential broadcast partners are dwindling. And Alt FB Scout, the alternate football scout, says USFL kicks off in April, XFL kicks off in February. Very, very possible for both leagues to coexist on the same network. The people at the top just have to learn to play nice, and that's a lot easier said than done. It would be really shocking to me. Let me know what you think in the chat. Really shocking to me if the XFL winds up on Fox. However, Disney owns Fox. And Disney, that's the part where it would be surprising. And nothing would really surprise me at this point. Did you really think that The Rock and Dany Garcia would be owning the XFL when it went down? That was not even on anybody's radar. I remember when it was announced that they purchased the XFL. I was literally shaking. I was like, I mean, and this is like, the joy of my server crashing as the first weekend of XFL games after a year and a half, 2-year buildup is finally here. And the excitement and then just the action, everything was going on. It was so crazy. It was fun, but it was like exhausting. There was so much XFL things going on, and the site was blowing up and new people were coming on board. It was just, everything was happening so fast. And then what happened, and it shut down. And then you thought all hope was lost and that it was never coming back and that the chapter was closed. And it was like, well, that was fun for 5 weeks. Now what are you going to do? It was really hard. I was like anti-football. I was like, I'm never going to watch football again. And then we were like, hey, let's keep the lights on, see what happens. And then The Rock buys the XFL. Didn't think that was going to be possible, so you never know. At TFFA, talking about the question of the week. Part of the attraction is affordable entertainment, so paying double would be a negative. My choice would be the XFL. Interesting. And finally, Paulez_Jeff. He says about our question, XFL 2023, obviously they plan to play in markets than in a bubble. Remember, the bubble is temporary. I'm not going to travel 7+ hours just to go to watch USFL games in a bubble. I watch it in my home market. Well, clearly, all of us would. We don't expect you to. They're not even selling season tickets for this season for the USFL. Maybe they might be doing it for the Birmingham Stallions. Other than that, they're not having season tickets going on there for that. Oh, there we go. We'll get you back into NFL football here. We'll wrap this up. We'll do YouTube. We got some phone calls and then an email, and then we'll wrap the show up. Dude with a bunch of numbers in his name. It's going to turn into a football wasteland. I don't know about that. Chief of War says the XFL needs the NFL and the NCAA support to be successful. It will simply fail without it, an epic fail. If it attempts to compete with them, their XFL is not going to compete with the NFL. Planet Jason said that absolutely correctly. Theodore King says the Grey Cup's ratings are down, but no one has come up with the streaming numbers. I've heard the streaming numbers were up in the 70% from what it was before, but then no one knows what those numbers effectively are. So we don't know what the streaming numbers, just that they were up a lot. Clint Davina says there are many Americans that don't and won't watch the NHL, MLB, NBA after March Madness bring on spring football. Looking forward to watching the USFL and XFL. Yeah, man. Isaiah says on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give the CFL this year? Question mark. It's an excellent question. This is my first year in the CFL. It was the first year for basically all of us. I've been interested in getting involved with the CFL, but because there was no American tie-in, that's why I never jumped to that. I had thought when the XFL went down, I was like, well, maybe I'll just cover the CFL. But there just wasn't the juice in the United States to make it where I wasn't sure. But then, this piqued my interest, the chatter. We keep hearing that chapter is not officially closed. I think it is for a very long time. I think they'll go on their separate ways, and then maybe something will happen. I enjoyed it. I think it took me a little while. I get the players. I'm like, wait, how did they get 1 point? They missed a kick, and then they got a point. The Rouge. And like I said in the beginning of the show, I go from I really like 3-down football to I really hate it. Like I'm in the middle when it comes to those things. So I'm not quite sure there. Darren says, as for buying season tickets for both USFL and XFL teams in a season, there's no brainer. You could get 2 season tickets to both leagues for about what it costs for 1 seat at an NFL game in some cases. 10 games to 1, no contest. He's all in. And Gary says, while it sounds good that Fox has brought the USFL and has broadcast partners, it seems at this time Fox is doing things on the cheap and they don't spend enough on advertising adequately, that they will fail rather quickly. So there is the USFL stuff, or there is the YouTube stuff. Let's get to a phone call, shall we?
Hey, this is Richard Bell, known Richard O for Real on Twitter. Got a question to ask you. Do you think the XFL or the USFL are going to try to make players sign like a 2-year contract with the option if the NFL call on them, they could get out of it with no penalty? And don't you think that the USFL is starting kind of late trying to hire people? I mean, they're like, 3 or 4 months away from the season. Do you think they'll be able to get it all together before then? And that's it. Thanks.
All right, Richard, thanks for the phone call. Remember when the spring league came in and started hiring coaches, it was kind of at the last. I don't feel it's the last minute. They wanted to kind of put things out. The coaches are coming, I would say, in the next 4 weeks. I think you'll get a lot of the coaches. It's just guys thinking about it. They probably reached out to the XFL, dotting the T's. But yes, the coaches are coming, and I think the coaches will be locked in by January. And it's not the big as runway as the XFL had leading up to their season, but you have to remember there was the spring football. The TSL was a year ago. They could easily just basically put the coaches in, call up all the same players that were in the spring league and bring in some new guys and be ready to rock and roll. And they've been planning all this stuff out for a while now. So I'm not too concerned. But yeah, time is running out. You would love to have this stuff in order. But again, if you're going to hire a coach in September, that means you're starting to pay him in September. And I think that's something that they don't want to do. So I think this falls in line with their time. They'll have no problem getting coaches. It would be really interesting to see what they do and what the XFL does in response to these coaches. That's the part where are they going to spend big bucks on coaches, Fox, to really make a big splash? We saw Bob Stoops, that was a big get, and just having his name attached to the XFL really helped bring in the other coaches. But really, June Jones was the best coach, had the best coaching staff going on. But Stoops was huge because that gave the league credibility. So you had to pay a lot for him. Will the USFL do the same thing? We'll have to find out. On to the email. We got our one emailer. It says, Mark, the XFL should be very thankful to XFL News Hub for keeping fans base alive and active. I appreciate that, Jim. Yes. And we've been told by people in the XFL and the USFL and Fan Control Football that they appreciate that we, help promote these leagues, and that's our mission. And the CFL too. A lot of people got a lot of great reaction at the end. I think people didn't like that we were newcomers in, but then when you have guys like Mike Mitchell writing for you and others, they really started to be like, wait, no, these guys are for real. Like they're really covering the league well. So we appreciate that too. And we're just here to help just promote these leagues. Question 1, is the XFL News Hub still planning on doing weekly XFL Pick'em? I would love if that were to happen. Yeah, absolutely. Fan Pick'ems kind of thing. I would love that. Yes, absolutely. We would definitely do XFL Pick'em games. That would be a lot of fun. We actually even had, and if DraftKings has a USFL component, we had a league. You pay $5 every week and you make your picks. We did that for the XFL. It was a lot of fun. Basically, you should have just picked PJ Walker and Cam Phillips pretty much. Question 2, what are your thoughts on 8 teams versus 10 for the 2023 season? Chance-wise, I think the XFL should go for 10 for selfish reasons. The only reason why I think that they should go, I'm split. I think they're going to play it by safe, but man, putting a team in Mexico would be a blockbuster move. Not really putting a team in Canada. You want to stick a team in Chicago. You can't have a third team in Texas. One of those other cities. But again, it's cold up there in February. That's the problem. And in February, even in Toronto, can you even have a game in Toronto in February? That's why I think first season number 1, they'll play it safe with 8. People will just be happy that the league is back. After that point, we could see international stuff. And really, if this was a TV show in season 1, you want to talk about the rebirth. In season 2, you can talk about adding 2 new teams, and that would probably make for better television. You don't want to talk about bringing the league back plus 2 teams. If you're going to do TV shows revolving around that, you'd wait for season 2 because people would be like, oh, they're going to bring 2 teams. What's that behind the scenes going to look like? That's pretty cool. I think they'll stick with the 8 teams. And his comment says, if the XFL goes to 10 teams, I was thinking Milwaukee might be a good location. Remember, what's the temperature like in Milwaukee in February? First, Milwaukee used to host 4 games per year with the Packers Gold season tickets. It might be very cool to get football back in Milwaukee. It is a small market, but it's close to Chicago, and the advantage Milwaukee has is its baseball stadium. I'm confident it would be converted to a football field, and it has a retractable roof for weather conditions. Now you have me talking. Stadium also has plenty of natural light that would make the game much more pleasant. All the best, Jim. Battlehawk Nation checking in. Thanks for the message, Jim. Always like to hang with our friends in Battlehawk Nation. Can't wait to hang in St. Louis. The first game needs to be in St. Louis. You need to sell out that dome. I'll be there. I'm sure the Markcast will be there. Tailgate it up. We are going to have, I don't care who they play. That first game needs to be in St. Louis. End of story. That's it. You don't want me to yell at you, XFL. I don't care what you do with your schedule. That has to be the first game. DC's cold. It was cold that first game, man. It was cold every game. All right, on to our final phone call up.
Hey, I got a question for the XFL. Now that we know when they're starting and everything, and if I already missed this on one of the shows, I apologize. But are they going to keep all the same team names? And my question is, would they be in the same locations? I know that's been a big speculation. And then I have a dark horse idea for the New York Guardian team. I know their fan attendance wasn't that great in New York City, MetLife there. And my idea would be, and I just want to know what you think, move the team from New York City to Syracuse, because in Syracuse there is the dome, the Syracuse Carrier Dome. Close off the top part of it and change the team name from the New York Guardians to the Northeast Guardians, and be able to market to that entire region. There's a lot of big cities in that region and a lot of rural area. I'm sure The Rock and Dany Garcia would be masters at promoting it. And also, if you think about it, if you're taking a young league and you're trying to draw fans, it's a lot cheaper to go to Syracuse, New York with a family of 4 or 5 to watch a game, get a hotel, get snacks, versus New York City, where New York City is just expensive for everything. So what do you think of that? I know it's extremely out there, kind of dark horse idea, but just like to know your thoughts about that little tweak for the New York Guardian team, if that team's still even going to be there, and changing it from New York City to Syracuse, New York, and changing it to the Northeast Guardians, which I think would be a good idea for marketing to expand to this massive area, kind of like how you have the New England Patriots. It's not just in Massachusetts, but they try to incorporate all of New England. Just like to know your idea. Not to know your thoughts on my idea, and do you think something like that would ever happen, or if it's just completely unrealistic. Just would like to hear your thoughts. Hey, same guy that just called about changing the New York Guardians to the Northeast Guardians. Thank you for taking your time to take my call and elaborate on it and give me your thought and give your take on it. And I hope you have a great day, and God bless, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and a great New Year's.
Thank you, sir. God bless to you too. I love how you guys, when you call in, you say God bless. That makes me so happy. You have no idea. But yeah, God bless to you too, my friend. Thanks for the message. As far as the team names go, I have a feeling everything will stay the same. I think the Roughnecks logo will change. I think they could be location changes. Houston maybe goes to San Antonio and the Vipers are in Orlando. That in itself would be kind of big news. I don't think they're going to be adding any new teams, just like we just talked about with the last email, going to 10 teams. It would get people excited. I just don't think that it's going to be there. Your interesting idea about Guardians into Syracuse and then playing in the Dome there, they want that big. You need to have a team in that market. And I think playing in, Red Bull Stadium is the way to go for that New York team. That place would get rocking, and you can move to the bigger stadiums. I don't think they'll move New York anywhere. I think you should keep the Guardians there. I mean, you could change it to the Northeast, but then really Syracuse, you're not really getting Massachusetts and Connecticut and all those other states up there. Hey, I'm from New York. I grew up on Long Island, so I know that area. I'm super excited about this, June timeframe. I'm already like making plans with my buddies. I'm like, listen, the XFL is doing some kind of training camp or whatever in June in New York. I'm there. I don't care if it's Jersey. Then I'm coming out with my boys and we'll play some golf and hang out. That's what I'm excited for. But yeah, I think the team names will stay the same. You don't need to change the team names. There's, issues with the logo. With Houston, maybe they change something to San Antonio. I think that would be the big get again. But I think Dallas stays where it is because they have kind of their own home stadium. In Houston, remember, Houston was the home place of Oliver Luck. Now that Oliver Luck is out, and now that the Houston Gamblers and the USFL are there, I think the XFL potentially could, but they had such a good fan base. I have no idea. That's my guess. What's yours? What's up in the chat room? We'll get to finish it up in the chat room. Greg says this, USFL, XFL just shows the power of football. I can't wait to see my Birmingham Stallions back on the field after 3 decades. Merry Christmas, Stallion fans. Very cool, too. Chris says, I predict Birmingham loses their inaugural game 9-7 to the Michigan Panthers. Greg said, Philadelphia Stars will dominate the USFL. Again, Ed said, share and sub you all. Okay. Ron says, as our USFL, XFL, CFL going global, I don't know NFL is going global. That's the thing, too. I don't think the USFL has any, because clearly the United States Football League, they have no interest in going global. The XFL does. They want to get there before the NFL. So I think that's like the only thing where I'm like, if the XFL could drop a team in Mexico, where would the other team be? Is Toronto really it? Do you do that now or do you wait? But now that the NFL is but the NFL is still years away. They're just going to start playing games there. That gives you a little time frame. Chris says even Hasbro and Hallmark want games too. Let's see. Ed says ESPN really sucks. I agree with you there. Old school boxing talk. I hope one of these leagues starts with 12 teams and 14 games. That would be fantastic. Paladin says CBS already failed at streaming. Disney doesn't own TV side of Paladin says just movie division. From my understanding, Disney owns Fox, but Murdoch still owns Fox News, but Disney owns everything else. Paul Alberto Sanchez says, yo. Paul Paladin, nobody's going to know streaming numbers because Corps only gives good numbers. That is true. One thing I thought of that was kind of interesting the other day, and I was like, why not? I was thinking about the CFL and kind of this success that we're kind of having of late with the CFL News Hub, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm really excited about the CFL season and kind of everything that's coming, and planning on trying to get to a Hamilton Tiger Cats game, and then, of course, basically making my Grey Cup debut this year. I already talked to the wife about it, so we're like, let's do this. Could the XFL and CFL play a championship game? And I was thinking, and now they couldn't because of the timing of the season. Clearly, the CFL is finished. But some people brought up, like, well, what if the USFL and XFL played a super game? Again, they all play at the different times of the season, so they really couldn't. But if, for whatever reason, the CFL's championship, and I know people talked about, well, Labor Day is when people get interested in the CFL. I didn't really see anything different between before and after. I don't know if that's a factor anymore. But let's say you made that Grey Cup weekend. I don't know, I'm not from Canada, if that's feasible or not. But the two leagues played separately. Could the XFL and CFL teams play against each other for a championship, but with the individual teams' rules? I'm not used to talking this long. My thought process was, what if you had the, I mean, the problem is with the CFL is that their games are on TSN, which is their ESPN version. They're not on regular CTV. This is what I learned through this whole Grey Cup stuff. The Grey Cup is not on their ABC, NBC's channels. But the NFL is, which is messed up. The fact that the Grey Cup is not on CTV, their broadcast channel, is like a joke. Like, how is that even feasible? One way to force their hand into doing that is, what if you played the and again, this is way out there, but if the XFL and CFL championships played, now let's say, hey, you had the Hamilton Tiger Cat, you had the Winnipeg Blue Bombers taking on the Houston Roughnecks in wherever in Canada for this global championship. Winner gets a bunch of money, loser doesn't. Could that even be feasible? And I was like, it could be feasible. Again, we're talking about the timeline playing at the same time of year, but with different set of rules, I think so. And if you could market that game to ABC, if ABC's like, we'll cover that game, and CTV is like, yes. The problem, the thing that helps the XFL so much is that they are on broadcast television, and we see the numbers for ourselves when games are on broadcast TV versus cable, when it comes to the XFL and when it comes to the Spring League. And when it comes to the CFL, we saw the numbers when it's on ESPN2 versus ESPN+. Like, the numbers are night and day. The CFL, to generate interest, needs to get on CTV in Canada. That is the main mission. Forget changing the rules and, any of this other stuff. They need to be on CTV for the playoffs and the championship game and not on TSN. That needs to change. If they can't change that because TSN owns the contract, having a championship game a bigger game would allow people to see. So what you would do is the game would be on CTV. It would be a one-off kind of thing, broadcast, whatever. The way you would do it is if you could give a 2-week build-up to the game, that gives each team, like, so say if the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were playing the Houston Roughnecks, the Tiger Cats coaching staff would go to the United States and help June Jones. Now, clearly he has experience in Hamilton, but their coaching staff, the losing team's coaching staff, would come to the United States and help the players adjust to the rules. These guys have been playing football forever. You add another person on the field, and that's basically and it's 3 downs versus 4. The nuances, they would pick it up. And we've seen, but you would have CFL coaches on the sideline coaching in tandem to be like, hey, he shouldn't kneel the ball in the end zone and give up the point. Like those type of things. And the reverse, where you have the losing team in the XFL side would spend a week with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and get them. You'd have a week of build-up, let them get the people talk, and then you'd have the game, that build-up, who's better, and have it on broadcast television. It'd be a home run for both leagues. And it was just a way of me, and then granted, this is not going to happen, or maybe it could happen down the road, but the leagues would have to play in parallel to make this happen, and clearly they're not going to anytime soon. And I'm sure they talked about it, but it is feasible. And the reason why I brought it up is because I don't think the CFL can succeed and get to the level it needs to without being on broadcast television in Canada. You cannot win and get there just being on cable television and streaming. Even nowadays, because from my own personal experience with both of these sites, I can tell you, national television traffic is especially with the older demographic. And it was just something I was thinking about, just having fun with it. But you don't know. And we could get a USFL, but nothing is going to happen in 2023 because none of these leagues are playing at the same time. And it is great because it helps me not have to deal with two leagues playing at once, which would make me crazy and my wife not very happy. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's see. I did get we got a comment. Let's see here. One last comment. Let's check the Facebook real quick. Let's see here. Facebook, I thought there was a comment on there. Apparently not. Again, remember, smash that like button and subscribe. Finally, Stock Speed Tech XFL would be a good place to develop coaches along with players. True. Mr. B. Great says the XFL, USFL will be great for players like myself. There you go. Exactly. Finally, Paul says the United States Football League should have channels on YouTube and Rumble and put everything up on these platforms. The XFL was amazing at the way they use social media to promote their brand. That is coming. It's not worth doing right now. They're trying to save money. The marketing will come as you get closer and closer because you're not going to draw people away from the NFL at this point. All right, my friends, long show. I got to get out of here. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts or record an MP3 or video. Leave us a phone, mail, the whole deal for next week's show, 888-430-7692, extension 3. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We're now on Amazon Music. And watch us live every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, XFL Week and Review, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. We appreciate you all guys hanging out. And that is it for me, folks. Thanks for listening. God bless. Stay safe out there. I got my extra jab, and hey, it didn't affect me at all. I just ran 20 miles listening to the Markcast and a couple other podcasts for my 20 miles. It was basically like 4 hours worth of running, training for my Disney marathon. I got the jab. I'm good to go. You're fine. Relax. Have fun out there, my friends. Stay safe. God bless out there. We'll see you next week. Merry Christmas, and I will see you all later.